Hey guys, what's going on? This is Aaron Linson with Linson Productions, and today we're going to talk about Braille. So let's get into it. So imagine, if you will, a world where your kid had no access to print. A lot of sighted people would be furious about this fact. This is where Braille is at in this stage in its life. Braille was first invented by the guy named Louis Braille. Obviously, it's where the name came from. And what happened is he was playing around in his father's workshop and he got poked in the eye by one of his father's tools. This led him to learning raised print, which is literally was on a page was just raised lines and they spelled out words. Sort of how print is read by people who are sighted, but you would just use one finger to trace the letters. It took time. Now, I've seen these. The really cool thing is the American Printing House for the Blind here in Kentucky has a couple of these examples that were used, or that the way we think they were used, which is really cool and really interesting to me. But Lewis thought there had to be a better way. So he came up with this system called Braille. It was originally called Braille, but it was actually used by the Army in Louis Braille's time for a form of night writing, to where the people and the soldiers could actually use it to write each other notes back and forth and communicate back and forth, which worked for a time. But then Lewis thought that it could be widely accepted and widely used by the blindness community. And it was. And one of the major examples that I have is this Braille book. I'm actually going to back up here. This book, this is, as you can tell, it's brand new because we haven't even opened it in a long time. This is Braille, and I'm going to bring it up to the camera. If you guys can see that, there's just bumps, like what a lot of people would consider just bumps. And feeling it is a sensation in itself. Now, this is a version, just one book. This is, I'm reading this with my hands here. This is the New King James Version of the Bible. This is volume 18 of 20. I haven't gone all through all 18 volumes here. This is Acts plus Romans. And this is what they used to be and what they still are. So these are hard copy Braille books that can still be made. And it's really interesting that these can still be made. And they are actually produced here. Braille books are still produced here in Kentucky at the American Printing House for the Blind. So back in the late 90s, there were these things coming out called Braille Notetakers, or personal digital assistants. And we, as the blind community, were the first people to have these devices. And as time got on and got better, these devices became better. This is an example of one of them. This is a Braille note taker called a Braille Sense U2. The company is called HIMS Incorporated. And what this does is, if I can find the power button here, it allows for the input and output of refreshable Braille. Let's see here. There we go. The input and output of refreshable Braille. So as I move this, tell me that Okay, it would just tell me that the internet was connected. So a lot of these devices have Bluetooth. This one has Bluetooth internet built in. And some of the newer models run on Android and run the Android operating system and are full-fledged PDAs at this point. It runs a specialized software running off of, not to get too technical, but running off of Windows CE version 5. So this is a few years old, but it still gets the job done for me, for what I need to do for work. And I'll go into that in another video, but this is very important to me and what I do. So as you can see, these pins move, and these are refreshable for anything. So if I have a document open, so let's see here. Where is my... I thought I had a document open here. So I'm just going through and finding what I need here. So I'm looking for a document reader. Okay, so yeah, here it is. So this is a book that I'm reading currently. I don't remember the name of it because I go through tons of books. But if I wanted to get that information, I could press a button here and I could get information. I could go to the file menu and I could, let's say, I don't want to exit and delete bookmarks. I don't want to exit without a bookmark. I want to find information. Exit with bookmark. Document information. So I'm on page 27 of 446. And I'm on paragraph 381 of 1341. I'm line 669 of 3640. I'm looking for information. I'm looking for the book name, file name. Okay, and this gives me a long number with a BRF, which is basically what's called a Braille format. It's a specialized format that allows note takers like this to read books. Cancel. Now it's back to the main book here. I don't remember what this is, but if I do, I can go back and look it up. I will put a link in the, not a link, but I will put it in the description below this video in case you guys are just curious, because I'm now curious too, but I'll continue with this video. So, this does allow for actually devices to be connected to it through what's called terminal Braille display. So this is my Android device, and I do have an iPhone as well. Both of these devices can connect to this and be run through this unit as a Braille display, which for me is really neat because I can drive every single aspect of my phone, whether it's iOS or Android, through this and have silent interaction and privacy for myself. Depending on, you say, if I'm texting my wife something or whatever, it can all be done through here and not through speech. And sometimes too, if I just want to just try something out, I can do that here. Make sure something is accessible. Make sure some buttons are labeled on a new app that I'm trying out. I can also read it through Braille and just make sure. And sometimes this too is faster typing, because you can input, than it is on the on-screen keyboard on either an iPhone or an Android device. So there are benefits to certain things like these. I'm going to actually turn this off now. And so Braille is alive and well, as you can see by these, and a lot of people are still using it. I use it all the time now in my job because my job requires me to be able to get information and parse it real quick. Whether that's a name or number, or even just finding information and researching it. Braille is quick and easy for me because there's only so much of a screen reader that you can hear every once in a while. And it does get annoying sometimes just to have something in your ear all day long. So having a break and being able just to read in Braille is a lot easier for me. And it's really, really, really good just to sit back and relax my hands on a Braille display and just read. A lot of nights I'll either have this Braille Sense or that version of the Bible. I'm still going through Acts and Romans right now, and just lay in bed or sit up in bed before my wife and I go to sleep and just read. The coolest thing is when I started learning how to read Braille was I would get these books in the library when I was in high school, and I would read them at night when I was supposed to be going to sleep. And I could do that when others can't. That's the really cool thing for me, is I can read at night and be totally fine and still read. And that was, and it still is a really cool fact for me, because I can read it and nobody else knows what it is because nobody else can read Braille. I should clarify that some sighted people who are not in the blindness field can't even read it. My mom was getting her, her certification in, I don't know if it was a certification or a bachelor's. I think it was a certification in orientation and mobility. And she had to relearn Braille, and she could read it with her eyes, which was interesting. Before I lost my vision, or a significant amount of it, I could read it with my good eye on the right side. I can't see anything out of the left, but on the right side as well. And it was interesting because seeing how those dots were formed it's always been an interesting concept to me. And I think that it needs to be taught to every blind and vision impaired student. And here's the reason why. Just like myself, they may not know when their vision is going. If I didn't get Braille into my mind and into my head and understand the importance of it and want to learn it, then I don't know where I'd be. The school for the blind in Kentucky were basically telling us and telling my mom that he doesn't need Braille. He's not gonna ever need it. And for me, as somebody who wanted to learn, my mom pushed for it. My mom pushed for things that the school said no, he doesn't need it. He can read large print. Well, large print with 16-point font is a 16-point font standard from the American Printing House of the Blind, and for me, that's still like reading 12-point font, which I can't do anymore. I can't read print anymore because of the vision loss that I have. And even when I had the vision that I had, it was very, very hard for me to do it, but I could do it. So for me, that was not an issue. That was not an issue. I wanted to learn it. My mom wanted me to learn it. My mom pushed for it, and I do have to say, Mom, I thank you if you ever watch this video for teaching me, for teaching me the stuff that I know now, but for also pushing the school system for me to learn Braille, because it was a very integral part in my life, and it's played an integral role in my life. Because, you know, when you walk up in, say, a restaurant and you're trying to figure out which one's the men's and which one's the women's restroom, and you can't read Braille, I'm sorry, but how else are you going to know if you just want to go in by yourself? There's a level of dignity and a level of personality and a level of independence there that, okay, the left is the men's, or the right is the women's. I don't want to even go into the right one. I want to go into the left one. And sometimes the signs need to be taken care of because people don't think about, hey, a blind person may walk in and might need to use the restroom, obviously, and there's no description there. There's a place that we go to here locally that now actually has one sign, which is more than what it was before, and it's on the women's side. And so I know that the door to that right is the women's, so the door to the left is the men's. Even though they don't have one on the men's, it's something. You know, it's halfway inclusivity at that point. Full inclusivity would be having both signs on both doors, but it's a start. You know, I'm not going to sit here and bash them and say, well, you know, they need to have both signs in there to be fully accessible. It'd be nice, but at least they have one. So Braille, for me, is very important because you never know when your child is going to lose their vision. It may never happen. It may never happen. I was always told that it could happen. My mom and I were always told that it could happen. We didn't know when. I've had the luxury of having my vision for the past 28 years, and for a year I've not had it. I've had to relearn a lot of stuff. I've had to rely on screen reading technology a lot more, which I'm totally fine with because I know how to use it, because I was taught how to use both ways. But having that ability to read Braille has really helped out, because it just makes life a lot easier, from spelling to checking my own spelling, to checking other people's spelling, to just making sure that a document looks the way it needs to look, presentable for a sighted community. Braille is important. And even as a musician, for me, learning Braille music in college was a reference point for me, to where I could listen to something and I could probably figure it out, but the Braille was right there, or could be right there, could be in that reach for me to grab it, or to have it translated, to sent to me and printed out or embossed out, and have it right there. Choir music became a lot more interesting when I had the Braille and was able to see how the lines worked and how they moved, and how the different lines moved with each other, because there's 4 parts, how they moved with each other and how they flowed with each other, and how my part was integral to, say, O Fortuna, or the Bach Mass, or I'm sorry, the Mozart Mass. That was a really big part of my life. That Mass is the most time that I used Braille music in my entire life, because that was if you haven't listened to that Mass, go listen to it. It's 15 minutes long, I believe, but it's really, really good. And there's a lot of integral parts and a lot of integral stuff that myself and my other colleagues had to do to get that to where it needed to be. That's probably one of my very best uses for the Braille music in college. Also learning piano as well. But I loved it. I still love it. And I'm just glad that I learned Braille, because it's really helped me out in every aspect of my life. And I encourage you, if you don't know it, there is a time that people think, well, I'm too old to learn it. No, you're not. You're never too old to learn Braille. I've got a friend of mine, a colleague of mine, who has helped me with running Ninsen Productions here. And he lost his sight in a car accident. And he's always told me, I'm too old to learn it. Why do I need to learn it? Too old. You're never too old to learn Braille. My mom, as I was talking to you guys before, who almost got certified as an O&M instructor, again, had to learn Braille, and she was in her 40s and learning it. And would ask me for help, which was great. And I tease her still because she's lost. If you don't use it, you lose it. And I still tease her sometimes, ask her, hey, what is an A in Braille? And she doesn't even know that. And it's just a joke between us because that's simple. But it's simple to me. Reading something under your fingers, usually these two fingers. Some people read with the right one, some people read with the left one. My wife reads with her left finger, just this one. I can't do that. Well, I can if I need to for Braille music, but typically use these two fingers, both index fingers, by the way. And it takes some time. There are patterns you got to do to understand how the cells work. And technology has helped out this concept. And it's really, really neat. And guys, I just urge the people that are out there that are newly blind, who are older, who think they can't learn Braille, who have tried and just given up because it's too hard. Learn it, please. Take the time. Get help. I'm here if you guys need any help with it. We can set up meetings. Just if you need help by Skype, or even contact me off list if you need to. My Twitter handle is Linson_Pro LLC. That's LINSON_PRO LLC. Get a hold of me, DM me or mention me, say, hey, I need help with Braille, and then we can conversating and get that happening, because it needs to be more widely used. And the misconceptions that it's dead are not there. The misconceptions that it's not being used are not there, because I'm using it, a lot of other people are using it. And it's keeping up with the times as well. So that is the reason why Braille is important to me, and why you should learn it as a blind and visually impaired person, and why you as a parent should push for Braille for your child. Because you never know when their vision could go. Now, I'm not saying that to be cynical, I'm not saying that to scare you, but it's just the reality of the situation, the reality of vision loss and visual impairment and blindness. Is that if the doctor says he's never going to lose his vision, don't count on that. Be optimistic, but put those tools in your child's hand to be successful, to be more successful than his peers, to understand the literature, to love the literature, to use it to his fullest advantage. This has been Aaron Linson. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.